Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is John and this is your Modern Tech Breakdown. Today I'm covering something slightly different. Instead of a tech news story with some commentary, I pulled up a blog post here about Apple's latest struggles. Let's jump into it. So unless you've been living under a rock, you're probably aware that Apple has delayed the new and improved Siri, which it demoed at last year's WWDC, potentially by as much as over a year depending on who you believe. And I ran across this blog post from Ben Evans that asks a very provocative question. Is Apple having a Windows Vista moment, as meaning a drift towards systemically poor execution? And as someone that remembers Windows Vista, this really got my attention, so let's talk about it. First of all, this is an excellent blog post by Ben. You should probably check it out, link in the description. So Ben makes some points that Apple's products since the iPhone have not been as revolutionary. Honestly, I think that's a bit too harsh. Say what you will, but the iPhone changed the world. Before the iPhone, virtually every person on Earth wasn't toting around a computer in their pocket. Yes, some corporate business users had Blackberries or Palm Pilots, but that was a very small fraction of the population. Now you can literally walk into a restaurant and they assume you have a device in your pocket that can scan a QR code to pull up the menu. Everyone is connected at all times through text, audio, and video, and it's a huge change in just a decade and a half. You're not likely to see products with that much societal impact come out all the time, or at least regularly, or especially from one single company. So I think comparing all Apple's products since the iPhone to the iPhone is a bit unfair. The iPhone is probably a once-in-a-generation type of product. Ben goes on to compare Apple's current situation to the Apple Maps experience, and here I think he's correct. Quality maps are a very large data collection undertaking, and Apple really underestimated the effort and time required to get there. And I think this is very similar to the Siri situation. I think Apple has underestimated just how technically challenging it's going to be to build that experience that they demoed at WWDC. In fact, I mentioned this at the time, and if you're a subscriber from last year, you would have heard me say this. This article mentions that Siri will be able to see what is on your screen and use that information in its responses. I wonder if apps will have to implement with App Intent's API in order to integrate with Siri, or if Siri will be able to utilize the information from the screen and manipulate the UI as if Siri was the user by sending swipes and clicks to the app. That'd be very powerful, but I think it'd be pretty challenging technically. This type of feature exists on desktop operating systems through a technology called RPA, robotic process automation. Those tools have to be set up and typically run very clear logic set up by a skilled user. Definitely not something a mainstream user would do. I'd be really impressed if Apple could pull that off in a way that the mainstream user could set up. So yeah, even last summer, it was obvious that this experience from Siri would be difficult to pull off. But unfortunately for Apple, they figured they could make the promise and then figure out the details later. And now people are wondering if Apple has lost its magic. And to that point, Ben here is wondering if this is Apple's Vista's moment. Windows began under the codename Longhorn in 2001 and wasn't released until 2006, a full 5 years later. There was a fancy new UI and a new file system that they wanted to build on .NET. This didn't go well and caused a very long delay in the release schedule. Pretty much a debacle for Microsoft at the time. I don't think Apple's situation is nearly that dire, but you have to admit that we could be at the very beginning of a similar scenario and we just don't see it yet. But I'll wrap up with two more points. Apple does hardware and software design. They make pretty hardware and pretty user-centric, attractive software and connect it all together in an ecosystem. The new Siri will require some serious deep software engineering and AI building to pull off. And this is not something that Apple is all that strong at. They make pretty things. They don't regularly make breakthrough software. And lastly, the length of the delay for Siri is telling. Apple could be just setting low expectations with hopes of overachieving it. It could also be that they don't have the problem figured out. In technology, there's situations where the path to the solution is clear and it just takes time to write the code or build the assembly line to get the product done. But when I see a delay of more than 6 months, I start to think that decision makers are being told by the engineering team that they don't yet have a clear path to the solution to build this product, which is a really scary place to be when your marketing department has already demoed the product. But that's all I have on this for now. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.